Why does the ghost always need more books? Because he goes through them too quickly. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, a book with an endless stream of posts on Bookstagram. Already lots of videos coming out on BookTube and so much hype on V. Schwab's long-awaited release. The main question is, should you read it? Hi, I'm Paulina and welcome to Paulina's Pages. Today I'm launching a new segment where I'm basically going to be talking about hyped up books, spoiler-free, in 5 minutes or less. Here's the thing, I am very bad at giving names, so if you can come up with an alternative to food for plot, that would be very much appreciated. So, Addie. If you haven't heard of it, it's a story about a girl who makes a deal with the devil so she can live forever. The problem is, she's bound to be forgotten by everyone she meets. Except, as you probably guessed, one day she meets someone who doesn't forget her. Not a spoiler, admit it, you knew it was coming, but also, it's in the book description. Addie, I gave you 4 stars, and I hated that I loved your story so much. Because when you get right down to it, you had no personality other than your freckles and the amazing skills you've acquired. Look, I think you're cool for being talented enough to read the Odyssey in its original Greek, but living forever, your appearance, and your language skills is not good enough for personality. And even with a well enough developed backstory, it's too little for a 489 pages hardcover book about you. I was very disappointed with V.E. Schwab for this because all of the characters were so mind-numbingly typical. Vicious and Vengeful are my favorite books of all time. I have a shirt somewhere with Victor and Eli, who are so deliciously morally gray and interesting, but Addie... Okay, we've talked about this very typical character development that I would accept from anyone other than Schwab and Verdugo. Also, let me spoiler-free mention some other characters. Oh, wait, there's only 2 characters who are well developed enough to be worth mentioning, who had at least some sort of development. Out of this entire book, I only like the devil himself. Shady, I know, as shady as this raven pin I have that you probably can't even see. The devil wasn't great, but he had that whole mystery thing going for him. And it made sense, but you know, apart from him being hot, that's all there was to him too. Except for very strong, extra passionate emotions and of course the cloud of death surrounding him. Schwab is usually the queen of plot, but with this book too, it was disappointing, just a little less so than the characters. The writing was so beautiful. It was in fact what carried this book for me. Actually, let me just quote, "The day passes like a sentence, the sun falls like a scythe." The setting was fabulous too. I love reading about France. The history of the country is so interesting and Schwab did a good job of it. But the problem was, even though the writing was good, there was nothing inside of it. So these chapters, as much as I loved the historical aspect of this historical fantasy, were so much more boring than the action happening in present day. Well, if it were another writer, I would have dumped the book right there, but the story flowed so organically, even with the 18th century chapters that I didn't really like. I finished the story so quickly and it provided me with a lot of highlights that taste pleasantly in my mouth, but I will forget. So then, if the characters were typical 2D people and the plot was basically sweet nothing, did I just give the writing 4 stars? Not quite, because then there was the ending. Right about when I was like, okay, 3 stars and we cry over the hype with no substance, the ending came along and it was so perfect. But I was just like, screw this. 4 stars. Keeping the spoiler free, but the last few pages, they just wrapped the story up in a nice little bow and slapped my unpopular opinion in the face. I didn't see the plot twist. Once again, the book left a nice impression, so there you have it. Is it worth the hype? No, go read other books by Schwab instead. But is it still a nice read? You bet. Thanks for watching and see you next week.